We often talk about how emotions can bring about so much intensity and sometimes even destruction in harmony, relationships. That is why a lot of emphasis has been laid out by spiritual teachers on the presence. But we do not really understand what presence is. So we try analysis. Now, up to a certain point, analysis is good because it can shed light on some of the patterns that happen in the human mind. However, just by analyzing, the patterns cannot be dissolved. The dissolution of a pattern happens only through an understanding that has its root in presence. To know what really is happening is to be in presence. Because when we are not in presence, we are filtering the content and seeing it from our own lens, which means our vision is skewed. So, what does the vision being skewed mean? The vision being skewed mean is that if my mind and body system is not in harmony, for example, if I'm feeling fear in the moment, then I will naturally see the other as a threat, as an enemy, and a reaction will come out as a result to prevent hurt. Now, in this resistance, the suffering happens. Resistance is the ego, it is the separate self. And most of the times, it is operating as a means of self protection. It just wants to safeguard itself, but it is not aware of what exactly it is trying to safeguard. And that's the whole irony. It doesn't know who it is really guarding. It just tries to put up shields. And I think one of the modern spiritual teachers, writers, I don't recall her name, but she said something very beautiful. She said that some of us just uh, to protect our hearts, we cover it with steel. We totally cover it with steel. And what happens is that that blocks connection that are harmonious, that are peaceful, that are joyful. So, living in that emotional state of protection can sometimes disrupt our peace. And that means there is no presence. But what happens is when the mind body system is integrated, there is deep awareness about what is happening. And in that awareness, there is no resistance. So, without resistance, there is no effort. And without effort, there is perfect peace. With effort, the peace is gone. So, I'm not trying to modify my feeling which is arising in the moment. My feeling may say that everything can fall apart, that the plans that I've made for future may not work, that my whole my all my desires, my dreams, my aspirations may fall flat. But you see, I'm already transported into an imaginary future where I feel that there is something that will come in between these desires. So I do not know what is coming in between this desire, these desires. But yet I am ruminating, I am resisting, I am fighting constantly. The way of the analysis is good. I, I don't discourage it, but it is limited. The only possibility that I see in that is to allow presence to surface with the integration of mind body and its dissolution into that presence, which requires sitting completely still with whatever is arising and accepting it in totality. So, there may be this fear that my partner may leave me, which is a very common fear for most of us. We have our loved ones, we have our spouses, you know, our partners. And sometimes we may feel that, what if my partner leaves me? Now, this fear by itself, this thought is not a problem. It is very natural for such thoughts to arise in romantic relationships. What becomes problem is that when I react to that thought, that means I continue thinking in horizontal time. I say, okay, my partner may leave. Therefore, I must create an environment where they cannot leave. So unconsciously, we try to enforce such solid mechanisms where the other partner starts feeling suffocated. And the only thought is to leave then, because they feel that this person is actually now trying to hold me. You see? So, this is what fear does to us. The problem is that we have never totally understood this fear. We always react. The moment we react, we are not seeing the fear in totality. We are seeing the fear from a lens that I must not get hurt. What if this I, if we put all this focus on this I as simply what is, as simply just what is happening, and not see it from that lens of how it should be or should not be, then something amazing happens, something very different happens. You can see all of the other person's patterns, and also at the same time, you can see your own patterns, how you are reacting to a situation and not seeing it in totality. And as a result, you're missing out the point. You're really not seeing the situation. You're not present to what is. So when the presence surfaces, which is a very calm, neutral, natural arising, beautiful arising, there is complete easefulness, effortlessness. But when the ego is filtering the content, it is modifying the content, skewing it. What is beneficial for me? How do I protect myself? How do I feel safe? That is when there is emotional dysregulation, there is disruptions in the patterns. And then what the ego mind does is it tries to employ more and more dialogue, more and more analysis, philosophizing, in order to solve that problem, because it sees that as a problem. What will happen if? But in that analysis, what is missed out is what is happening here. Therefore, the Vietnamese teacher, the late Vietnamese teacher Thich Nhat Hanh, I was reading an article today, a beautiful article by him, and he says that mindfulness is the integration of mind body complex into pure presence. And that's what Christians call the kingdom of God or kingdom of heaven. That's what is called mindfulness in Buddhism. Pure presence.